Hey, fourth graders. Today I'm going to be reading Otis and the Puppy, written by Lauren Long, and this was #1 on the New York Times best-selling list. But before I start reading it, I just wanted to review theme with you guys. I know that all the classrooms have been talking a lot this year about theme, and for those of you who don't remember, theme is the important message in the story that the author wants the readers to take away. And if you are having a hard time figuring out what the theme is, you can ask yourself, what lesson did the character learn in the story? What was the big lesson that made the character a better person? So while I read this, I'm going to be using my fourth grade reading skills and making sure that I'm asking myself questions, I'm summarizing what I read and maybe making predictions, and you guys can follow along. It was springtime on the farm where the friendly little tractor named Otis lived. The flowers bloomed, the trees were filled with leaves, and the farm buzzed with the joy of a new season. There were fields to plow and crops to plant, and Otis was right in the middle of it all, working hard. Puff, puff, puttity chuff. When the workday was over, Otis, the little calf, and all their farm friends loved to play hide and seek. Otis loved to be it, counting 1 putt, 2 puff, 3 puttity, 4 chuff, as his friends ran to hide. When he reached 10, it was game on, and Otis motored here and there looking for his friends. So I noticed that already they're talking a lot about friends and Otis playing with his friends. He found the little calf hiding in a deep thicket of wildflowers. He found the ducks hiding in Mud Pond, and he found the bull hiding in Haystack. Otis and the animals would play until the sun disappeared behind the trees, making sure to be home before darkness fell. One evening, the farmer gathered everyone up in front of the barn and gently placed a burlap sack on the ground. The sack began to wobble, tumble, and roll. It sat up, stretched to the sky, and went ar, ar, arf. What could be in there? Then out popped a little head. I wonder what all the animals are thinking while all this is happening. A puppy! The puppy shook his ears, raised his head to the sky, and yelped out another ar, ar, arf. Then he burst out of the sack and romped around, greeting everyone with wet kisses. He wriggled from head to toe, and his spotted tail wiggled and wagged, wagged and wiggled. The farm animals smiled as they watched their happy new friend. And then as quickly as he had jumped out of the sack, he wobbled over to Otis, leaned on his tire, yawned, slouched, and plopped off to sleep. So this puppy seems to really like Otis. The farmer put an old doghouse in front of the barn, scooped up the sleepy puppy, placed him in his new home, and said, "Good night, little pup." Otis, the little calf, and all the animals filed into the barn for a good night's sleep. Otis yawned and nestled into his stall. He was thrilled to have the little puppy on the farm, and he smiled as he drifted off to sleep. Put, puff, puttity, zzz. All of a sudden, he woke to a pitiful whimper. The whimper turned into a whine, and the whine into a yelp. It was the puppy. Just looking at that picture, I can see how scared the puppy looks. A little sad, too. It was dark as midnight. Otis took a deep breath, clicked on his headlights, and putted out to the doghouse, where he found the puppy trembling with fear. He was afraid of the dark. With a chuff, Otis invited him into the barn, where the puppy curled up and fell fast asleep. From that night on, the puppy would slink from his doghouse into the barn with Otis, where he felt safe. So I know that I used to be afraid of the dark, and I wonder if any of you guys are afraid of the dark, because that can help you relate to how this puppy is feeling. And after a day of working on the farm, the two friends would play hide and seek with the others. One day, while it was Otis's turn to be it, he sat counting to 10 while the others hid. 1 putt, 2 puff, 3 puttity, 4 chuff. But the puppy had something else on his mind. Otis finished counting, peeled out, and motored here and there. Putt, puff, puttity, chuff, swerving and darting and skidding as fast as he could to find his friends. He found the little calf hiding behind the old apple tree, and the ducks hiding in a scraggly growth of honeysuckle, and he found the massive bull trying his best to hide behind a lone dandelion. But where was the puppy? So I look at the picture and I notice that the puppy is playing with a butterfly and maybe getting a little bit distracted. Otis and the animals searched high and low. Even the farmer came to help, but they couldn't find the puppy anywhere. So think for a second, if the puppy's afraid of the dark and he gets lost in the woods, how do you think he's going to be feeling? Finally, the farmer stopped the search. "It's getting dark," he said. "Let's continue the search in the morning light." By the time they reached the barn, it was already quite late, and all the animals went right to bed. Yet Otis couldn't sleep. His heart ached deep inside his engine. He knew how scared of the dark his new friend was, and he was worried that the puppy had wandered into the forest. He putted over to the barn door, looked out into the night, and sighed. Like the little puppy, Otis too was afraid of the dark, but he knew what he had to do. So this story the whole time has been talking a lot about friendship. And now his friend, the puppy, is lost in the dark. I wonder what's going to happen. I'm thinking that Otis is going to ignore his fear of the dark to help his friend. He clicked on his headlights and puffed out into the night. Just inside the forest, Otis stopped dead in his tracks. The sound of night crackled, thumped, and croaked all around him. His heart pounded and he shook like a leaf. Every part of him wanted to turn and run back to the farm, yet he knew his friend needed him. So he closed his eyes and began to count. 1 putt, 2 puff, 3 puttity, 4 chuff. By the time he got to 5, Otis felt a lot calmer. When he hit 10, it was game on. So Otis isn't thinking about himself right now. He's trying not to think about how scared he is, but he just wants to help his friend. He peeled out and motored here and there. He swerved and darted and skidded and flashed his headlights everywhere in the dark night. He circled and crisscrossed the forest, making sure to see every possible place a puppy could hide. Finally, his light shined across an old hollow log with a little spotted tail poking out of the end. The puppy was whimpering softly, too scared to come out. But when he heard Otis, he squealed with joy. "Arr, arr, arf!" He wriggled and wagged and wiggled right out of that log. He squealed and cried and covered Otis's face with kisses. So we know that the puppy feels safe when he's with Otis. So he must feel really good after being lost in the dark and seeing his friend. Then the two friends began to make their way home. They stood tall together as they passed through the dark forest, and somehow the night sounds no longer felt so frightening to them. On the farm, a warm, safe bed awaited them. Before long, a new day would arrive full of bright sunshine, work, and play. The end. So if I had to figure out the theme of this book, I know that I stopped a few times and I noticed that they were talking a lot about friendship, and Otis had to conquer his fear of the dark for his friend. So I would say the theme of this book is conquering your fears and being there for your friends and supporting the ones you love. So you guys are going to have to read your silent reading books and think about what you think the themes of your books are, and you can do it the way I did it. While you're reading, just stop and think about the things that you're noticing and think about the important messages in the story.